Hi, I'm Skip Nipper. Welcome to Skip's Corner, the podcast where I tell you about not only Nashville's great baseball history and traditions,
shot to right, a one-hop liner,
but certainly about its past. And you will hear a little bit about its present and future, too.
Yes, he can. It makes the waist-high catch.
There are great stories about Tom Wilson Park, Herschel Greer Stadium, Sulphur Dell, and the players, coaches, and fans who love everything about baseball. And every once in a while, you will get to hear from a special guest who will share their fondness and even passion for the great game.
The high fly ball down the right field corner, going way back, hits a lead-off home run.
Boy, what it seemed like a drought in September turned out the last few days of September is rainy season. A lot of rain here in Nashville, but we have to be concerned for those who live in East Tennessee and, of course, the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida, and other places that were hit hard by strange weather and have lost a lot of things, their home and valuables. And I hope not many lives were lost, although I'm sure there were some. We need to keep those folks in our prayers. I had my birthday a couple of days ago. I had a great birthday. I had lots of wishes, well wishes for my birthday, a lot of happy birthdays, my family and friends. It was great. I had a nice dinner last night. I really enjoy birthdays. I hope I have many, many more. They say the best one is your last one, but that doesn't mean the last one that you're passing on. It means the last one that you had has got to be the greatest, right? So anyway, let me get it back into baseball because I want you to recognize a name if you've been around baseball in Nashville for some time. It's an important name, and a lot of people ask about this name. If you were around in 1958, you'll remember it was one season of glory for a man named Jim O'Toole, and I want to tell you a little bit about him. James Jerome Jim O'Toole was born on Chicago's South Side on January the 10th, 1937. His father's name was William J. O'Toole, but he was known as Happy, and he was a Chicago policeman and was known in his precinct for checking liquor and cigarette licenses. Jim was one of 5 children, 3 boys and 2 girls, and his father claimed he had a full house, 3 kings and 2 queens. And younger brother Denny, also a pitcher, would grow up to have a sparse major league career with 15 games for the White Sox from 1969 to 1973. Well, back to Jim O'Toole. After graduating from Chicago's Leo High School, O'Toole attended the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and the former Golden Gloves boxer pitched 1 season for the Badgers, and he went 0-3 before becoming one of baseball's bonus babies. Now, a bonus baby was one who signed under special baseball rules that were sporadically in effect between 1947 and 1965, requiring that such a player who signed be immediately added to a team's major league roster for a period of time before being assigned to the minor leagues. And the rule requiring bonus babies to spend 2 years with a major league team was no longer in effect. But scouts Phil Segee and Paul Florence of the Cincinnati Reds had scouted O'Toole, mainly in independent ball after the University of Wisconsin-Madison games were over. And they were impressed enough to offer him, get this, as a bonus baby, a $50,000 bonus. Now, it was spread over 4 years, but Jim's first experience with the big league organization soon came at a minicamp before spring training in 1958. And it was there that O'Toole learned important baseball lessons from manager Bertie Tebbetts, such as don't throw anything on a 2-2 pitch that you wouldn't throw on a 3-2 pitch. And Tebbetts also passed on some words of advice on extracurricular activities as well, when he said, when you go out to drink, buy your own drink and don't buy anyone else a drink, or you'll be obligated to let him buy you one. And that's where you get in trouble, I guess. Well, the Reds sent O'Toole to their AA affiliate, Nashville, and in his first start as a professional on April the 12th, 1958, against Chattanooga at Sulphur Dell, he walked 10 lookouts. But how do you think the game turned out for him? Well, he held them to 5 hits, and Nashville won 15-7. And 6 days later, on April the 18th, the 20-year-old Southpaw shut out the Chattanooga lookouts, this time 1-0, allowing only 4 hits. On May the 3rd, an event happened for him, or could have happened for him. There were 2 strikes, 1 ball, and 2 outs in the 9th inning when Little Rock's Harry Elliott hit a single off the screen in right field at Sulphur Dell and spoiled a no-hit, no-run game by O'Toole. And it would have been the first such feat at Sulphur Dell in over 30 years. Now, after Elliott's hit, Little Rock Traveler outfielder Ben Downs also hit a single before Lou Haymans was retired to end the game. So without that no-hitter, well, O'Toole still won. The score was 14-0. And about 5 weeks later, on June the 11th, Nashville ended a 6-game losing streak at Mobile's Hartwell Field as O'Toole blanked the Bears on 6 hits, winning 3-0. And it was his 3rd shutout, but his 9th win of the season. And 2 weeks later, on June the 24th, O'Toole pitched a 14-inning complete game win over Memphis, winning 3-2. And he raised his record to 12-3, lowered his league-leading ERA to 2.07, and in his 12 complete games had 106 strikeouts in 152 innings pitched. All that led the Southern Association. And by August the 5th, he becomes the league's first 17-game winner of the season with a 4-3 win over New Orleans. Those are just some of the highlights for O'Toole's season with the Vols. But at season's end, he led the AA Southern Association in wins with 20. I think he also lost only 7. But he led with complete games, 21. 280 innings pitched led the league, as did 189 strikeouts, although he also walked 132 batters. Now, Nashville did not have a particularly good team that season, finishing 5th in Southern Association standings, 15.5 games behind pennant-winning Birmingham. Then he made his major league debut with the Reds, and there he'd only had 1 minor league season. But it took place on September the 26th at County Stadium in Milwaukee. He started the game against the Braves, against Lou Burdett, who was going after his 20th win of the season. And O'Toole was the losing pitcher, but in 7 innings against the Braves, he allowed only 4 hits, 2 runs, but only 1 was earned, and he struck out 4 while walking 5 before being relieved by Hal Jeffcoat in the 8th. Curiously, Jeffcoat, younger brother to George Jeffcoat, who had played for the Vols back in the 40s, well, his younger brother, Hal Jeffcoat, this reliever, had been an outfielder and made relief appearances, but had played also for Nashville in 1947 and had batted .346. But here he was at the tail end of his career, and it was the end of the season, and he relieved O'Toole in that game. But interestingly, after that game, Leo DeRocher, former Dodgers and Giants manager, now the baseball voice of NBC at the time, who had watched the game from the press box, had this to say about young O'Toole. "I don't have any idea what kind of bonus the Reds paid O'Toole," DeRocher said, although we know it was $50,000. But he said, "I'm quite sure they could get $250,000 for his contract on the open market today. He's got the equipment needed to become a standout pitcher." Well, O'Toole remained with the Reds from 1961 through 1964, where he won 19, 16, 17, and 17 games for Cincinnati. And he played a crucial role in Cincinnati's 1961 National League Championship when he won 19 of 28 decisions and had an earned run average of 3.10, second in the National League behind Warren Spahn, and he finished 10th in Most Valuable Player voting. Though pitching effectively in the 1961 World Series, he lost his 2 decisions to Whitey Ford in games 1 and 4 as the Yankees beat the Reds in 5 games. And in 1963, he was the starting pitcher of the National League in the Major League Baseball All-Star Game. That was his only appearance at the Summer Classic. But he pitched 2 innings and allowed 1 earned run, but was not involved in the decision. And O'Toole later said that being selected as the starting pitcher by San Francisco Giants manager Alvin Dark was one of the proudest moments of his career. In 1964, he continued as an elite pitcher with a career best earned run average of 2.66, sixth in the National League, and a win-loss percentage of 708, third in the National League behind Sandy Koufax and Juan Marichal, two members of the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum. O'Toole played in Cincinnati until his final season, 1967, spent with his hometown team, the Chicago White Sox, but was ineffective due to arm troubles. And he tried to return with the 1969 expansion team, the Seattle Pilots, but was cut in spring training before the season began. Almost everyone who profiled O'Toole, including himself, used the adjective cocky. In describing himself during his first full season as a major leaguer, O'Toole told author Danny Peary, "I was cocky and didn't let anybody push me around. It was stupid to throw to the catcher's pitch instead of your own." And in his book, Pennant Race, reliever and author Jim Brosnan described O'Toole as a bit too cocky to be nervous, as brash as Brendan Behan himself. Well, Behan was an Irish poet, short story writer, novelist, and playwright, and was very cocky. And Fred Hutchison told Sport magazine in 1962, "Cocky? Put it this way. I think O'Toole believes in himself. That's great. He likes a fight. And when he's competing, he's aggressive. He works hard to beat you." There's another side to Jim O'Toole besides his fierce competitiveness. In the book that Doug Wilson wrote called Fred Hutchison and the 1964 Cincinnati Reds, catcher Johnny Edwards included him in a bunch of guys who had a lot of fun together. And Mike Holzinger, a 1964 bat boy, recounted that O'Toole was really nice to us bat boys. He always took care of us. He had a great personality, liked to laugh, and you always knew when he was around. A turning point occurred in O'Toole's life in 1960 when he got married. He had found the lifestyle of the bachelor ball player to be full of temptations and credited marriage with helping him to settle down on the mound, as well as in his personal life. Jim and Betty Jane Wall, his high school sweetheart, were married on July the 2nd, 1960, when the Reds were in his hometown of Chicago for a series against the Cubs. And O'Toole expected Jay Hook to pitch on July the 3rd, the day after his wedding, but instead found his name on the lineup card. And following his Irish Catholic post-wedding festivities, as you might expect, Jim was not in the best of shape to pitch on a hot, humid July day. He even claimed that he tried to get thrown out of the game in the first inning by loudly disputing one of umpire Jocko Conlon's calls. And Conlon was having none of it when he said, "I know you got married last night," he told Jim, "and want to get thrown out, don't you? But if we all have to suffer in this heat, you do too. I'm not throwing you out. Now get your ass back out there and pitch." And the Cubs instead sent O'Toole to the showers early by knocking him out in the fifth, and he lost the game 5-2, his first career loss to the Cubs. And when asked after the game why he pitched O'Toole the day after his wedding, manager Fred Hutchison deadpanned, "I didn't set his wedding date." Well, after his baseball career ended, O'Toole had a successful second career in Cincinnati real estate sales and remained active in the community, supporting charities and participating in local events, including the 2015 St. Patrick's Day Parade, where he served as the Grand Marshal. Well, Jim and Betty O'Toole continued to live in Cincinnati in the house they built with his 1961 World Series share, although it has needed expansion a time or two to accommodate their 11 children and 34 grandchildren. After leaving baseball, he sold homes for 10 years, and the ever-competitive O'Toole became the number one salesman for his company. And he later went to work selling accounts for Jim Cosman's commercial trash service. O'Toole was inducted into the Reds Hall of Fame in 1970, the first year he was eligible, and he remained involved with the Reds organization, and in an interview once was complimentary of the organization and their outreach to veteran players. And before he passed, he was attending approximately 20 games per season and said he still had a lot of love for the game. But he died on December the 26th, 2015, from cancer in Cincinnati. He was 78 years old. And here's a couple of more Nashville tidbits for you. O'Toole came to know Jim Cosman when Cosman was a bat boy for the Nashville team the season O'Toole spent here, and when the hotel in which the pitcher was living in burned down. He moved in with the Cosman family, and the two Jims became good friends from that. And you might remember some of his teammates on the 1958 Nashville Vols. If you don't remember them, you'll remember some of the names. He was on a pitching staff that included teammates Jim Bailey, Gene Hayden, and Jay Hook. And how about players Chuck Coles, Bobby Durnball, Jim Fridley, Buddy Gilbert, George Schmees, Larry Taylor, and his manager, Dick Sisler. Well, those are some great names to join one of Nashville's favorite names, Jim O'Toole.